ओके. ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति. ओम समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. ओम नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यंबकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकालाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकंठाय मृत्युंजयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः. कविं पुराणमनुशासितारम् अनोरणीयां समनुस्मरेद्यः सर्वस्य धातारमचिन्त्य रूपम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात्. हरि ओम. Salutations to all. સૌને નમસ્કાર. અમિતભાઈની પહેલી પુણ્યતિથિ. એ અવસર પર આપણે એમનું સ્મરણ કરીએ છીએ. મારી જ્યારે પોસ્ટિંગ થઈ મુંબઈમાં નવેમ્બર 2000માં, એના થોડા મહિના પછી વિશ્વ સંમેલન હતું, ચિન્મય વિશ્વ સંમેલન હતું 2001માં. પણ 2001ની આઈ થિંક શરૂઆતથી દર અઠવાડિયે એકવાર હું અહીંયા આવતો હતો. ખાલી અમિતભાઈ, વિશાખાબેન, સંગીતાબેન અને સંગીતાબેનના મમ્મી હતા. આઈ થિંક 4-5 લોકો જ હતા. ગીતા અમે ભણતા હતા અહીંયા. અમિતભાઈને મેં ગુરુદેવના વિડીયોમાં જોયેલા છે. પીઆરસીના વિડીયોમાં અમિતભાઈ, વિશાખાબેન ગુરુદેવની પાસે ગીતા એમણે આખી સાંભળેલી. અને પછી શ્રીકાંતભાઈ કહ્યું એમ કઠોપનિષદના ક્લાસીસ, બાકી ઘણા બધા જે સેવા કાર્યો હતા એમાં પણ એમણે ઘણા યજ્ઞોમાં બી આયોજન કરવામાં સહયોગ કર્યો, સેવા આપી છે. એટલે એમનું જીવન નિસ્વાર્થ જીવન, સાધનામય જીવન હતું. અને આજે એમની પુણ્યતિથિ પર એમનું સ્મરણ કરીએ. અને આવું જીવન જેમણે વ્યતીત કર્યું હોય, અવશ્ય સદગુરુદેવના ચરણોમાં જ એમને સદગતિ પ્રાપ્ત થઈ હોય, એમાં કોઈ આશંકા જ નથી. અને આજે એમના પુણ્યતિથિના અવસર પર જે આપણે અહીંયા સત્સંગ કરીએ છીએ, દેટ ઇઝ વન ઓફ ધ બેસ્ટ વેઝ ટુ ઓફર ટ્રિબ્યુટ ટુ હિમ. અમારા ગુરુદેવ કહેતા હતા કે વિથઆઉટ કલ્ચર મેન ઇઝ અ વલ્ચર. એન્ડ without culture man is a vulture. The cultured, the uncultured, the cultured give happiness wherever they go, the uncultured give happiness whenever they go. People are waiting for them to go. Hey, when will this fellow go? To pass on the culture from one generation to the other is the most difficult task to do. To decide the topic for today's satsang, I got questions from 3 generations. that shows success of Amit Bhai's life, Vishakha Ben's life, that they have created that curiosity in the next generation and they have created curiosity in the next generation. So 3 generations have a lot of questions about our culture. Some also have reverence for the culture and follow it. Some have reverence for the culture, have lots of questions, but either ways it is beautiful, because one may pass on wealth, one may pass on house, property, many things. That is one aspect, but to pass on this inquisitiveness to know about the higher aspect of life, that is most important aspect. Because if that happens, then that generation is taken care of. They get anchored, then the generation is ready. So today, on this occasion, we thought, let us reflect on some of these questions that people have, and through that let us do the satsang. So one of the most common questions that is there is there God? Does God exist? How many of you here say God does not exist?
Be honest.
Yeah, be honest, don't worry. Gurudev himself thought God did not exist. So there is nothing wrong in owning up one's conviction. Does God exist?
I don't know.
You all believe God exists?
Yeah.
You are pointing at her, so you believe God exists.
I mean, yeah, that's like a superpower. That's what I believe.
Okay. Well, so why do you think there is a superpower which exists? If you don't know, then how do you? So it's just an assumption, no? Then
Yeah.
assumption can be false also.
Yeah.
Who has seen God? Has anybody seen God? Here I am not asking. In general, has anybody seen God?
No.
No? Acha. So God is now invisible entity, cannot be seen. Think about it. So how Gurudev used to explain beautifully. Now this phone is there, right? Do you think this phone God created on its own or some company created it? Company created it. Can all these parts by themselves come together and make themselves into a phone? Can the phone get created just like that by random mixture? Some, hundreds and thousands of combinations, and then one combination suddenly clicks and iPhone ban gaya. Doesn't happen, no?
Yeah.
If there is a effect, there has to be a cause. Do you think this phone is sophisticated or is some dumb instrument? Simple question I am asking. Is it like a sophisticated equipment or like just an ordinary dumb thing? It is sophisticated. A lot of things you can do with this. I don't know if you all have seen, but we have seen different types of phones. So one small little phone used to be there first. Only numbers you can dial. It did not even have memory in that first phone that came, 2001 cell phone. From there it has evolved to this. So if you think about this equipment, it cannot come on its own. There has to be some intelligent maker of this, right? Can anything which is inert combine together to form something absolutely intelligent on its own? Any machine also. Can a machine assemble itself, or a machine has to be assembled and operated by somebody? Once you assemble it, then it can operate on its own. But to assemble it, some intelligent cause is required, right? This universe, if you see, is this universe a dumb universe or a very intelligent universe? It's intelligent. Look at the number of creatures here. Every single creature has such fabulous sophistication in the systems, right? Even a small mosquito. Do you know how many hearts an ant has? That small little creature, ant, has 6 hearts. Can you imagine? Research, you will find 6 hearts it has, a small creature, ant. And how does that function? It's so amazing. Right from the smallest unicellular organism to the highest being, each one's systems are different, each one's habitat is different, their bodies are different. You know, I just came from the Himalayas. If you see the dogs there, they will have lots of fur. For some time you will have to watch carefully if it is a dog or a wolf, we don't know. Because their habitat is like that, so their whole body structure will be like that, everything will be different. So if you see the creation, there has to be an intelligent cause behind that creation. So in Vedanta we say there are 3 causes for a creation. Suppose there is a pot. What all do you think goes into making a pot?
Mud,
Very good. So mud, water,
chakra,
very good. The wheel, then
the guy, the person.
the potter, most important. Generally we forget the potter. The potter is the intelligent cause, the wheel is the instrumental cause, and the mud is the material cause. So if you apply this to the world, what is the material cause of this world? What is this world made up of? Can you tell me?
Living
5 elements.
Matter? Correct, perfect. Matter, and that matter can be classified as 5 elements. And what science tells us, if you keep dissecting matter, so atom, proton, neutron, electron, string, quarks, it will keep going down, 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 down. One can keep dividing. But that is only what? One cause, material cause of the universe. And it is an important cause, there is no doubt about that. But what about the instrumental cause and the intelligent cause? The intelligent cause behind this universe is what we call in Vedanta as God. So don't think God is some abstract entity, unknown entity, invisible entity, or some one person sitting up in the heaven somewhere. God is the intelligent cause of the whole universe. Just like the phone is inherent, this phone has sophistication inbuilt inside it. In the same way, the intelligence of the universe, whatever you see, is intelligent manifestation of the Supreme Lord Himself. So Bhagavan is not separate from the creation. We don't believe God created the universe. We believe God appears as the whole universe. Like the mud itself becomes what?
Pot.
The pot. The intelligent potter uses the mud, transforms it into the pot. There is no difference between that mud and the pot. Effect and the cause are one and the same. So we also understand in that way that God alone appears as this whole creation. And is God visible or invisible? It appears invisible, no doubt. But what is invisible, does it exist or not? Just because something is invisible, can we say does not exist? Infrared light exists or not? Ultraviolet rays exist or not? Can our normal eyes see? But if we want to see, what to do? Use intelligence and put those glasses. If you put those particular glasses, then you will see. Laser beams, you know, a lot of these movies they show this heist when they do, when they go and steal one diamond, then they thief will be there, he'll put some glasses and this laser rays will all be there and moving about, and this fellow will do all kinds of acrobatic gymnastics and he will pass through so that these laser rays don't touch him, and he will go and steal that diamond. So if you want to see those rays, they are not visible to the eyes, but if you put that equipment, you can see. Even normal cells, can you see normal cells in the body? You can't see. But if you put under the microscope the same one layer of skin, if you put, oh, how much you can see inside that. Same way, God is visible, experienceable by everybody. If God pervades the whole universe, then God is there in our heart also. It's not that God is not experienceable. Just that we should know how to do the sadhana. So right now our mind is out, so we can't see. If you turn the mind inside, that is what we call yoga, meditation, sadhana. If you do that, you can realize God. You can experience the experience of, you can have darshan of Bhagavan also. And so many people have had. It is not that people have not had. This is the land where countless number of people have had darshan of Bhagavan. And people who have been non-believers, they have transformed to have darshan of Bhagavan. Vivekananda ji, I am not even giving you Puranic examples, I am giving you examples which are historic. Vivekananda ji went around asking people, have you seen God, have you seen God, have you seen God? Everybody gave him theories and he didn't accept. Then what did Ramakrishna say? Ramakrishna said, I have seen God, I see Him more closely than I see you. And Ramakrishna made Vivekananda ji have the darshan of Mother Kali thrice, not once, thrice. So it is possible to have darshan. Don't go by some popular hearsay of people who think themselves to be very intelligent, who say that, oh, I don't believe in God, I am an atheist and no, God is not visible and all that. Because they have not used their brain, or they have not been exposed to the knowledge in a systematic way. If they are exposed to this knowledge properly, this is a beautiful knowledge of our culture. This is the knowledge to gain which people from across the world, they come to our country. We say India is the guru of the world because of this. Even today it is a fact. So God exists, God can be experienced, and you know what Gurudev said beautifully. If you want to prove God, improve yourself. That's it. Remember that one line of Gurudev. If you want to prove God, improve yourself. Meaning, if I learn to become more and more positive, pure in my mind, surrender increases in my heart, ego I let go, I realize God in my own heart. And it is not that I can only have darshan of God. Our culture says each of us essentially are one with God. Like every wave, is it different from water in the ocean? It is same. So that is beautiful aspect. And if you anchor in this knowledge that God is in my heart at all times, nothing can make you scared, nothing can make you upset, nothing can make you feel lonely. You know, in the world today, how many problems are happening just because of this loneliness. People are desperate to have relationships. They don't mind having a relationship with a dumbo, but they need somebody. Yeah, I'm telling you, you will know as you grow up. They'll write on the status also, single. In a relationship or whatever. I had a breakup, something they will write in relationship. And if they don't have a particular person with them to go to some prom night, this night, that night, they feel so sad, they feel so lonely, they feel left out. Oh, I don't have anybody. Here if somebody doesn't give you a rose on the rose day, oh God, that fellow feels I am so lost in life, I am a loser in life. All kinds of stuff, because that is all created in the head. You can be having relationships, you can have whatever you want to do in your life, but be very clear that happiness does not depend on anything outside or any person outside. It is in your heart, as God is in your heart all the time. So that was one question about God. What are the others? You have some, go ahead.
Rohan Aryan, your questions.
Okay, so this is Aryan's. Hariom Swamiji, whenever I tell myself I'm doing good at a thing, the next time I play the thing or do the thing, I perform badly compared to what I performed the day before. How can I tell myself that I'm doing a good job without being cocky or getting my pride involved?
Very nice question. So when you do something good, you can always congratulate yourself, you can feel good about it, because that boosts our confidence, that makes us feel happy. In fact, why do we want to be successful? Because if we want to be successful, it is because it makes me happy, it makes me feel a sense of achievement, it makes me have the satisfaction that I manifested my potential. If you don't feel good about that, and there are many people who are like that, they are successful but they are not happy. They don't feel good about their success. Sometimes there is a fear of complacency, like you have this question here, or they feel this success is not enough, I need more and more, only when I reach a particular point of success, then only I will be happy. So they miss out on the journey. Now how do I be successful, compliment myself, and yet ensure that I don't be complacent? So one important point to remember in this is, the goal must be high, and you can keep complimenting yourself for your milestones. Suppose you need to reach a particular destination, it is 200 kilometers away, and you have covered, let us say, half the distance. You enjoy the journey of half the distance, but you also know that there is 100 kilometers more to go. So if your goal is very high, on the way you celebrate the milestones, feel good about it, feel happy about it, but at the same time you know that there are still things to be achieved, so I don't need to get complacent on it. That is one aspect, first aspect. Second aspect is, as I feel good about it, I can also figure out how much can I improve more. My focus can be on that how much can I improve my performance, my efficiency, which are the areas where I can fine tune myself more. It's not that because I did good, there is nothing in me to improve. If that feeling comes, then downfall happens. But there is always scope for improvement. Even the greatest achiever in any field it may be, will always look for areas of fine tuning, improvement, how to increase the efficiency and the performance. So if you focus on that, along with congratulating yourself, feeling good, which are the areas where I can improve, I can become more better, then I'm sure the performance will not go down. You will be happy, as well as you will keep improving more and more. Third also is, take feedback from people. See, what happens is, certain things we know about ourselves and people don't know. But certain things people know about ourselves but we don't know, because our mind is focused on certain aspects. But there are many other things that people notice about us which we may have forgotten or which we may not be aware of. So in management they have this Johari window. What I know and people don't know. What people know and I don't know. So what people know and I don't know, that area is the area which I should take feedback. Then the third quadrant is what I also know and what people also know. And the last one is what I also don't know, people also don't know. That will reveal in time. So we should take feedback. We should ask people, ki, how was the performance, where do you think I can improve, or what do you think were my strengths. Always ask both, don't ask only critical feedback. I'll ask for strengths and weaknesses both. If you ask only critical feedback, some point in time we feel lesser about ourselves, because we generally tend to ignore the positive. And people also are more focused on giving the negative feedback first. If there are 10 equations, out of that 8 are correct and 2 are wrong, people's attention will go to only those 2 which are wrong. So people also have that tendency, so we should be aware of that. So ask both positive and the negative, and then take the balanced opinion and then improve. Then things will be fine. So keep the goal high, keep asking yourself which are the areas to improve, and take feedback. Fourth and most important, last point, always be grateful to the Lord for whatever success one has achieved. Because nothing is possible without Bhagwan's grace. If I understand this very well, I will be grounded, rooted very well. Otherwise, success gets into the head and lot of things can happen. Definitely, the Lord's grace that we are able to achieve certain things. We are alive itself is because of grace of the Lord. So always thank the Lord and feel grateful that thank you, O Lord, for all the blessings you have conferred on me. I dedicate this to you, or whoever it is. It may be parents, it may be your country or your team. If you dedicate it, then it will bring out the best, it will keep you grounded. So these are few aspects which can definitely help.
Rohan's question, how do I motivate myself to do the work that I don't like doing?
Applicable to everyone actually. How do I motivate myself to do work that I don't like? This whole skill in life and this training in life in spirituality also is that. To do what I don't like, but which is my duty, which is necessary. See, sometimes it is uncomfortable, but again, if I understand this, that why this is necessary, there are two ways to approach this. One is to understand the reasoning behind it, why this is important. So many times we don't like to get up early in the morning, go for exercise, do some yoga, or do any kind of meditation, or eat certain type of food, or avoid certain type of food. I may not like any of that. But if I have my goal very clear, that I need to become fit, or I need to lose weight, or I need to improve my stamina or my flexibility, or whatever it may be. If I love that goal very much and I am clear why I need that goal, these are the two aspects. The thinking must be very clear, the reasoning must be there, and the feeling must be aligned to that. That why I want to do this, why I have to do this, what is the feeling behind it. Sometimes it's a personal motivation, sometimes it is for somebody else. I do it because I love my parents. Maybe I don't like to do certain things, but I have to do because I love my parents and it would help them, it would be good for them, it would make them happy. So I do it because I love them. That also shows the mastery of the mind. So it can be self-motivation, or it can be for the sake of someone else. It may be parents, it may be elders, it may be even my country. How many people sacrifice their lives because of the love of the country? So many people have, even today, the army, when they serve in the borders, away from their family, even on festival occasions, you see so many police people and everyone, they are out, they are doing their duties. Diwali, they don't have a chutti and all that. So commitment is there towards the duty, towards the country, whatever is their motivation. So if I have a higher motivation in life, reasoning and feeling I am able to align well, then I will push myself to do what I dislike also. And if I can do that, that is actually called self-mastery. That is freedom. You know, Gurudev used to define freedom most beautifully. Generally, what do we say is freedom? Swamiji, I am a free bird. I do what I feel like doing. Nobody to stop me, no boundaries, no restrictions, no rules, nothing. I just do what I want to do. Gurudev used to say exact opposite. Not to do what you feel like doing is freedom. Meaning impulsively not to do anything. That is freedom. I feel like doing something but I know it is not good for me, then not to do it is freedom. And I know that this is good for me but I don't like it, but still I will do it. That is freedom. Karela I may not like, but it is good for my body. So if I eat that, I am developing a sense mastery. It is not about ego. When we bring ego into picture, then we have a lot of problem. Now mummy has made Karela today only. I told her not to make, but still she made today only, and now I am not going to it because she made. It's not you versus mummy. It is Karela is good for your body. You just eat it. Finished. You have developed a certain sense mastery. Over. You know, the whole Mahabharat war happened because of this only. Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan, they very clearly said, I know what is dharma but I cannot follow. And I know what is adharma but I cannot stop. Whole spiritual life is that much only. Knowing what to do and doing it, and avoiding what not to do when you know that it is harmful. But we are doing exactly opposite. We know what is harmful, but we will still engage. Alcohol is such a common thing today. Young kids taking alcohol. For what joy, I don't understand. Liver cirrhosis happens because of alcohol. Grey matter in the brain, you know. Already grey matter is very less in our brain. Alcohol literally destroys grey matter in the brain. Research has shown. Still one feels cool. I have a glass of wine in my hand and alcohol in my hand, and capacity is tested. Swamiji, I can drink 10 pegs neat and still stand without shaking. Very good. That is your capacity. Hello, capacity is not to, you see the bottle and still don't touch it. That is capacity. When all the people around you are drinking and you still don't drink that, and even if they make fun of you, you don't feel less about yourself, that is capacity. Drinking 10 pegs and not shaking is not a capacity. That is illiteracy actually. Educated illiteracy, that is, nothing else. We know it, but still we will drink it. Why? It's cool. It's very cool. And then come and throw up in the toilet. Yo, terrible. Next day morning hangover. With all this, but Swamiji, these are experiences of life. We have to go through, you know, Swamiji, at young age. If we don't go through now, when will we go through? All addictions start like this only. And the young people who come and tell me this, no, Swamiji, everything we should experience in life. And I tell them, sannyas also you should experience. And potassium cyanide also you should experience then. How strange is that? What kind of logic is that? No. So, inspire oneself to have a self-mastery. The beauty of human life is only this, na? With the buddhi we can control. See, animals, they are controlled by instinct already by nature. But we are not like that. We have freedom. So how do we use that freedom? That is our prerogative. Great things can be achieved only when we have self-mastery. Neeraj Chopra, he got the gold in javelin throw. You look at his schedule. When people are all doing all kinds of stuff at his age, he's how many years old? He's hardly 23, 24 years old. And if you look at his life before as a 12-13-year-old person, you look at him how plump he was and how overweight he was. From there to the journey to get a gold for the country in athletics is stunning. What level of self-mastery he must have gone through to do all this. And what self-belief. There is no doubt in his mind. He threw the last one and he knew that this is the gold, straight. So, if we have that kind of an inspiring goal, then all this will fall into place. If we think our life is meant only for enjoyment, then it becomes more challenging. Not that with great achievements we can't enjoy life. Definitely one can. But not losing self-control and self-mastery. Go ahead.
This is Ruchi for his question. How does one earn a teenager's respect? Should a teen be allowed to make all decisions for their school life by themselves? What role should a parent play in a teen's life on a day-to-day basis? I am asking this question because my boys think I'm overly involved in their life.
Okay. So, teenager's life, there are lots of opportunities, lots of things to explore, changes happening at the body level, new relationships, new environments, many things changing, and each one wants to explore in their own ways. So definitely there cannot be a black and white saying ki no involvement or complete involvement. There definitely has to be a striking balance, but the important point is choice and consequence. That is the method that one has to follow. The freedom is there to make the choices, warn them or guide them about consequences, positive, negative, and then they have to face the consequences. If they are falling, it is their fall, they have to deal with the consequence, be there as a backup for them when they need you, but let them make the choices. Inform, guide beforehand, but finally it is their choice. That's how they will become independent, they will learn many things, they will have their space. We may feel that no, the mistakes we made they should not make, or we may feel that we know very clearly that this path they are going on is a wrong path, but they have to recognize that. Intellectually sometimes they are able to recognize, they may choose also, not that all the time they will not listen. The seeds have gone in, it will help at some point in time definitely to make the choices also. And when they fall also they will learn ki mummy had said that or daddy had said that, whatever it may be. So choice and consequences is what will work as a person becomes a teenager. Force will not work, control will not work, because the intellect has started functioning. But one thing very important to understand biologically is very interesting. Not until 17 or 18 biologically one gets equipped to handle certain deeper decisions of life like career or even deeper relationships. That's a biologically proven fact. The brain is not yet fully capable of handling some of those aspects. Simpler aspects one is still able to discriminate, but the deeper aspects one is not aware, one is not biologically also ready for that. So one should at least have an open mind, because certain things may appear to us as very old or orthodox, etc. This I am talking for teenagers. But when our intelligence is not yet matured, then we need to rely on the experience of the elders. So as teenagers one must have that kind of open-mindedness, that is important. one should not block out saying ki whatever the parent is saying is orthodox and it is to restrict my freedom. So if both have this middle ground, it will work better. Teenagers also come to a certain open-mindedness, parents also come to a certain trust factor, and let the children have that freedom to make their mistakes and guide them beforehand, but don't enforce, don't insist. Things will then be more harmonious, more smooth. Did I cover all the questions in that? No, in that particular question about teenagers, there were some 3-4 questions in that.
Can you please define gratitude and give a few examples of gratitude in the language of a teen? Why is gratitude so important?
So, gratitude is thankfulness to the Lord for all the blessings as well as the challenges. And why is gratitude important? Because a mind which has a gratitude is the mind which first and foremost focuses on what is rather than what is not there. And the success of all achievements is only when we are able to focus on what already is. When we focus on what is not there, we always feel less, we always feel deprived, we always feel somebody has more, I have much lesser, we feel insecure. Gratitude makes our heart full. Gratitude makes our heart contented. It makes our heart feel happy. And then when we strive out of that, whatever we achieve, we will be able to achieve beautifully. See, happiness is the bottom line for everything. If I want to achieve any great thing, if my mind is unhappy, I can't even set a great goal. I won't feel confident, I won't feel strong. If I want to make more friends, if I want to become popular in my social circle, if I am always cribbing, complaining, people who have no gratitude will have that mindset. They will always crib, complain, this is not there, that is not there, this should have been like this, that should have been like that, because the heart is not contented. And when contentment is not there, who likes a person who goes on cribbing? People like somebody who is loving, who makes you feel happy, who makes you feel, nice, who encourages you, who is there with you to do things beautifully, creatively. People like such company. So even to develop friendship, to achieve success, to have great scores in academics, even in sports, if you want to build a team and you want to motivate them, if you yourself are not a very positive, optimistic person, you will not be able to keep others motivated. And especially in difficult times, when everybody is seeing the negative, the leader is the one who has to see the silver lining in that cloud. When it is difficult, how will one see that? When the mind is trained in gratitude, then one will be able to see that. This is the positive aspect, and holding on to that, we will be able to overcome this challenge or an obstacle, or transform this defeat into a victory. So gratitude has a lot of important role to play, and even in spiritual life, gratitude is most powerful. See, to even have a healthy body, to have a family, to have basic comforts. It is said, if you have a roof over your head, if you have good water to drink, if you have food in your plate, you are in the 6% of the people of the world. 6%, just imagine. Only 6% of the world, even today with all so-called development of science, technology, everything, not everybody has access to basic, even water is not there in so many parts of the world. So when gratitude comes into life, then we start understanding the importance of even so many of these aspects. Then what to talk about so many other higher aspects. So gratitude has a lot of role to play. Generally one thinks I will be grateful after, at the fag end of my life, after achieving everything, then I will say, oh, thank you God, I achieved everything in my life. No. Every single day, feel grateful to Bhagavan and see how it will increase the feeling of happiness. We value every person in our life because of gratitude. Today, how many relationships are breaking? Why? Because gratitude is not there. The value of that opposite person is not there in life. One very quickly thinks of breakup. When I was growing up, there was no concept of breakup in youngsters especially. You love somebody, finish, that's about it. What breakup? No breakup. Today to breakup, and they celebrate breakup anniversary also and breakup party also, and पता नहीं क्या क्या करते रहते हैं, इसका दूसरा उसका तीसरा ऐसा चलते रहता है. There is no point then. Why? Because I am not saying be in a toxic relationship or harmful exploitative relationships. I am not saying that. But the point is, when gratitude is there, you value that person. Parents, how much we take parents for granted. When they are not there, then one will feel, Arey, I am missing my parents now. Now what happened? So we generally take lot of things for granted. Gratitude helps us not to take things for granted, value them when they are there, so that our relationship with them is better and we feel happy, they feel happy. It works well. If just think about it, today so many people talking about environment, and today it is no more global warming, it is a global, it's not climate change, it is climate crisis today. That UN report submitted about a month or two ago said that very clearly, it is climate crisis, there is no more climate change, and in 20 years time if you don't take care of this, it is irredeemable, finished we are. If we had gratitude towards environment, would we have done that? We have exploited the environment like anything, and we continue to do that even today without any remorse, because one doesn't value environment. It's all big talk. One will do all big talk and sustainability and this and that, but deep down in the heart selfishness rules completely. Some superficial measures one may take, okay, ban this, ban that, that's all. But deep down, nothing. We just came from the Himalayas. Ganga ji is so clean and pure in the mountains up there. Absolutely crystal clear water. No issue at all. By the time she comes down, look at the pollution that is there in that Ganga ji. Why? Because all industrial waste being thrown into it. There are enough regulations and rules and everything which is there, and tribunals and everything which is set up, but useless, all useless. Because selfishness ultimately rules the heart. Gratitude is that which will remove that selfishness. It will make us value what we have. And if we cannot value what we have, we will lose it. Then we will regret. So gratitude is very, very crucial for every aspect, in achievement, in relationships, for nature, for spiritual growth, for team building, for everything. Gratitude is most powerful. And everyone should cultivate that gratitude. Not only spiritual people or people who have become elderly.
Anyone with any other questions?
Yes, attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, attitude of gratitude. Yeah.
It's okay. Anyone with any other questions? Okay, I had sent you that thing. That my girls feel that I overplay Hinduism a lot, right? Almost that they think I'm racist to a certain level.
What got you racist?
No, so they think that when I say that this, so I think there is a, not just with them, with their generation, I think there is an identity crisis of understanding what Hinduism is, or they, in this whole big word of secularism, I think they take it too far. To be secular is you don't have to be an Hindu. That's what's happening in politics, right? So I think that's what this generation thinks that if you show a certain affinity towards your, right, you're being unsecular to the other faiths. So I think if you can just tell, I think that I think my generation and the following, we didn't give enough importance to our own culture. And I think that is the reason when you don't know something, in most cases you want to stay away from it because you don't know. So I tell them that you don't think Hinduism is important is because of your ignorance. You try it and you say I don't like it is another thing. You don't give it a shot and just want to be cool or be secular, right? That I'm secular, I don't want to be a Hindu, I don't think it's important. Being a good person is enough.
Correct.
So if you could just throw some light and tell them why it's important and why Hinduism is as great as it is.
Correct.
I just want to add to that. So a lot of people think doing rituals, okay, I don't believe, I'm not ritualistic, ye part, puja, all of that does not matter, chanting, all that does not matter. It's just about being a good human being and, that is spirituality. All this is religious, not spirituality.
Correct. And that is true. What both of you said, that is definitely there, and that's what one of the reasons why we are not following culture is because of that. How will I be a good human being? That's a simple question to ask. No, Swamiji, will follow good value system. Theoretical answer. How will you follow good value system? Which are the good value systems? Who is telling you that? Moral science teacher is telling you that? That is the free class, PT period it is. Be good, do good, tell honest, be honest and all that. How many people are able to follow that as it is? One doesn't follow. One part. Second part is very interesting. When we speak about science, science has two parts. Every science has pure science and applied science, right? Will you say, I love pure science but I have nothing to do with applied science? In your school, can you tell? I will not do any practicals. This is all ritual, I can't do. You teach me theory, I will answer the paper because this is important. That lab and ritual is not important. One can't say that because the pure science is of no meaning if it has no application. And that applied science has no meaning if it is not rooted in the pure science. Hinduism is the subjective science. It has pure science, which is the philosophy, which is Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, all this. And if you teach that, it is knowledge, no doubt. How will you apply? Make the mind selfless. Make the mind single-pointed. Surrender the ego. Meditate. Realize oneness with the divine. See the self in all. Treat everybody lovingly. Now, those people will say what, Swami, this is all very theoretical, Can you tell us something practical to do? Now, when we are telling you do something practical, this is religious ritual part, I will not do all this. Because you are not understanding the connection. And the same thing they will do when it will come from America. Gayatri Mantra Japa, how many people do? Think about it. How many young people today are able to take the Janev Samskar? Nobody will do. Why? It's old, outdated, superstitious. But Jaunty Rhodes will come from abroad to India. He will get the Janev ceremony done for his son. And the name of his son is Bharat. Julia Roberts will come here, learn all the rituals. Will Smith will read the Bhagavad Gita. Tulsi Gabbard will speak on the Bhagavad Gita. They will do all that. Then we will be like, "Arey, this is our culture, this is so glorious, this, that." Whole world is today doing what? Sun worship, sun prana, sun energy, sun healing, sun phalana, sun dhikna. Arey, what about Gayatri Mantra? Your culture is telling you that Gayatri Mantra from thousands of years, and research has been done today on the power of the sun and the impact of the sun on your body, on your mind, on the mental health. That we have conveniently forgotten. So what we need to understand is 2 points very important. One is Sanatana Dharma, this Hindu culture is not just some, religious belief. That is old and superstitious and outdated and all that. It is a proper subjective science. And this science has survived. The oldest living culture in the world, can you tell me is which one?
Hinduism.
The oldest living culture is this Sanatana Dharma. There is no other culture older than this, which has survived the onslaught of attacks of more than 1,000 years. No country has survived that. No culture has survived it. This culture has survived. And look at the freedom in this culture. Will you be able to leave her in a room or something? Because I think she is very uncomfortable in this small space. Tell me which is the community which has not been accommodated in this culture, in this country, who has been persecuted by the world. Parsis, did any country give them the refuge here? Refuge except Bharat? The Jews, across the world they have been persecuted. They have not been persecuted in Bharat. Look at that, so many people like that. How many different people have come here, we have accommodated. Why? Because Hindu culture is essentially having that very clear understanding that we all are divine. This we need to understand very clearly. Hindu culture is not against secularism. Hindu culture is inherently secular. And that's one reason why we have accommodated everyone here, not out of any, whom do you tolerate? You tolerate somebody who is an irritant to you. But you accommodate, you love people who you think are your own. Hindu culture is not a tolerant religion in that way. We are an accommodative religion. We have accommodated everybody who has come here. Some of them have been persecuted like anything across the world. But why? Because we believe everyone is divine. And open your eyes and see clearly. There are lots of blinders put on us, on our eyes. Will a Christian tell you that all paths lead to the same goal? They will not tell you that. Only Christ, full stop. Will a Muslim tell you all paths will lead to the same goal? No, they cannot. And don't think there are no divisions in Christians and Muslims. Enough divisions are there, because that's not a problem of the religion, it's a problem of human beings, ego. We think that Hinduism has, caste system and so many divisions. How many divisions are there? Do you know? There's Dalit Christians are not allowed into the normal Christian church. We don't know any of that. We are taught all rosy stuff about all the other cultures, and we are taught nasty stuff about our culture, so we have come to hate our religion and our culture. But that is not true. The culture which says even today, can you be a non-believer in Christianity and Islam? Ask these questions. You cannot be a non-believer in Christianity and Islam. You can be a non-believer in Hindu culture. That's the freedom your culture offers. You can choose any form of God you want to worship and you can still be a Hindu. That's the freedom this culture offers. and you respect everybody. Whether you are worshipping formless, or you are a believer, non-believer, you don't bother. That is humanity. And we don't go by humanity alone. We go by what is the divinity of all. Forget human beings. We worship stones, we worship everything else which is inert. Why? Because we think, like what we said earlier, no? God appears as the whole creation. That's our philosophy. So, point is not to criticize any other culture. Point is to be very clear about the beauty, the glory of our culture. Find out the scientific reasons. Why is an Abhisheka done? Such a powerful reason behind that. So many powerful reasons behind why we do so many things. Fasting. Do you know who got the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018? One scientist, he got the Nobel Peace Prize, I forget his name. He got the Nobel Peace Prize for doing the research that if you do fasting once in a fortnight with only water, the T cells in your body will rejuvenate and it will help to fight cancer and your entire immunity will become very strong if you do fasting once in a fortnight. What was Ekadashi in our culture? Is that only? No. When we do Abhisheka, why do we do Abhisheka? When chanting is done in a temple, the temple is an enclosed space. The sound echoes there. It is received back by the person. It is absorbed by the dravya that is offered. And earlier days it was, if you see, the water etc. is collected, milk, water, edible stuff which is offered is collected, offered as prasad to everyone who comes to the temple. It is not wasted. If today people are wasting it, that is their stupidity. So they have to correct that. And even today, where there is a lot of water etc. which we are offering, the tradition is that all that will be diverted to the plants nearby. Either you create a path for the garden, or you take that water and offer it to the plants, that kumkum, haldi and all those things. So beautiful traditions are there in our culture. Whichever ritual you take, as he said, you first test it. Don't reject it just like that. Find out what is the scientific reason behind it. And today there are lots of YouTube videos and Instagram reels and many things available where this knowledge is given, that why certain things, why a bindi has to be worn, or why an arti is done, or why a pradakshina is done. In Chinmay Mission we have the best selling book itself is called Why Do We? In Indian culture, Why Do We? That's the bestseller of the Chinmay Mission, a small booklet. So find out the glory of that and never ever feel shy to say I am a Hindu. Nobody else feels shy. You think about that. Are they not feeling proud to say what they are saying? The logic that you are applying, is it that logic that others are also applying? Does a Muslim say that by my saying I am a Muslim, others are going to be offended, so I will not say? Does a Sikh say that? A Sikh is so proud of his culture. A Muslim is proud, a Buddhist is proud, a Christian is proud. A Hindu only is not proud. And it has been falsely put into our head. I'll tell you one simple point. If you say I love my mother, are you against all women in the world? Just think about that. No, you can't say I love my mother because you are disrespecting all the other women in the world. You are a hypocrite, you are a whatever, what is it called? Misogynist. What is the word? One who disrespects women, What is the word for that? Misogynist, right? You are a misogynist. You are disrespecting all other women because you are loving your mother. How stupid is that? I mean, the same logic people are applying to country. I am not an Indian, I am a global citizen. Who's the fool who is saying that? A Hindu Indian fool is saying that. That our problem is that because we are not taught, and the media media gives so many things and we just bought it all. Without understanding what is the reason behind it, what is the vested interest behind it, कुछ नहीं, वो कुछ सुना नहीं हमने, सोचा भी नहीं. And the mind is accepting whatever they are saying. So if anything happens, they will put a communal angle to that. Now she doesn't want to go. It's okay, sit. Sit, no issue.
દરરોજ ભાઈ તમે આપ બેઠ જાઓ કેટલી વાર ઉઠે છે બિચારા.
So think more about this, have little more clarity that why this culture I should be proud of. And I'll tell you one simple point, one more. If you are really concerned about secularism, then ensure that you are a proud Hindu, because if Hinduism is wiped out from this world, secularism is wiped out from this world. Remember that. So you cannot remove secularism as long as Hinduism is there, because we will still be there to say that all of us are divine. Even the fellow who is trying to kill us and convert us, our belief is you are divine, but if you attack, we will defend. But we know that you are divine. If you destroy this culture, that's about it. Then there is nothing, no secularism after that. And all forces are there in the world today who are out to destroy your culture. If somebody comes to destroy your house, what will you do? Will you allow them to destroy your house? Your hard work you have built for so many years, your parents have put in the effort, grandparents have put in the effort, so this house has been built. Will you allow them to come and destroy? Will you say, आ जाओ भाई आ जाओ, secularism है सब, मेरे घर में आ जाओ, सब कुछ तोड़ फाड़ के चले जाओ? Will you say that? No. You will fight, you will defend, you say no. Do you know how many people are, how many forces are there to attack this culture? There are people who are killing. How many people are being killed only because they are Hindus? And the world does not speak a word. Just now what has happened in Kashmir.
Yes.
How many, the genocide that happened in the 90s, that is different in just now. Just because he was a Hindu, he got shot.
Yes.
What happens to all these so-called woke people and the liberals at that time?
Human rights.
Human rights people at that time? Nothing. Nobody speaks a word. Where is the secularism then? Where are those people who are killing these people? Our own people, the Hindus.
They said government didn't provide us the security.
That's what I'm saying. Some blame they will just put, na. There are people who are getting killed just because they are Hindus. You and I think we are safe in this land right now. Look at the countries, look at the states. Conversion I am not even coming to. How many people were killed in Bengal just because they voted for the BJP? Just because they voted for BJP and just because they said Jai Shri Ram. In a Hindu country to say Jai Shri Ram, it is not it is not disrespecting anybody. I am just saying Jai Shri Ram. What is wrong? Did I prevent you from saying your Allah's name or your Christ's name or your Buddha's name? No, nobody. We didn't say anything. I am just saying Jai Shri Ram. What is wrong in that? Freedom of speech, no? So-called freedom of speech. Constitution gives freedom of speech, which comes, freedom of expression comes when they want to portray all kinds of nonsense. When M.F. Hussain can portray our Sita ji and Hanuman ji in such a pathetic way, that time the freedom of expression will be given very clearly. And now when we say Jai Shri Ram, no. People get killed because they are Hindus. People get converted. So there are Christian people who are on a mass conversion. There are Islamic people who are out to kill. There are leftists who are out to kill. Look at the forces arrayed against our culture.
Media.
Intellectual forces, physical forces, all types of forces which are there. And we Hindus are still blind, thinking, no, everything is fine, we will go settle down somewhere abroad and we will live a nice life. We are only bothered about that much. This religion and all, we should not bother. It's all politics. Boss, your house will not be safe tomorrow. I am telling you that. There are people out there giving sacrifices to protect this culture. That's why we are sitting here quietly now. Otherwise, by now we would have finished. We are not aware only of that. So, my point is very simple. Before forming opinion about Hindu culture, let us examine what is this culture, what is the scientific reasoning behind certain things, be proud of the culture, live that culture, share that culture with maximum people. We don't need to do anything else. We don't need to condemn anybody as of now or kill anybody, convert anybody. हमको कुछ नहीं करना है. But at least live the values for ourselves and for others. How beautiful is this culture where we worship Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. We worship all, stones, plants, trees, animals, birds, everyone. Such a beautiful eco-friendly culture it is. So if you see from modern standpoint also, there is so much to absorb about Hindu culture. There is scientific nature, there is all accommodative nature, there is mysticism, there is love, there is bhakti, there is freedom. How many different parts are there in this culture? When people ask why we have so many gods, nobody will ask why there are so many food items. Nobody will ask that question. Why so many clothes? Everybody wear one same, black and white, full stop. Same soap, same food. Every morning idli, every afternoon dosa, every evening uttapam, let us say. Will you survive? Variety is required, no? This culture provides such a beautiful variety to us. Suppose I don't like Shiva. There is a fountain on his head and then the snake hanging here and then there is some poison here and he wearing tiger skin and very primitive. I don't like Shiva. What will I do? I can choose Krishna. And if I don't like his yellow pitambar, I may say okay, he will wear Reebok jeans or whatever. Fata hua jeans like that. My Krishna has all fata jeans. He wears that. And he has some cool glasses and he is very cool dude types. Okay, I love Krishna in that way. That freedom our culture gives, no? Try doing with other people. You don't have that freedom, boss. I am telling you. One does not know the beauty of being a Hindu till you get out of Hinduism and try something else. Then you will understand, Arey, what a freedom I have, Baba. You think about that. In Goa, I went to one church, Saint Francis Church. His body is there. Few youngsters had come with me. They were asking questions. In that, one fellow was a local who took us there. You know what the priest there said? You are from Goa, right? So he said, yes. Stop asking questions, you will not get a grave, I am telling you. That was the answer he was given. That priest didn't answer questions. He straight away threatened that guy. He said, don't ask questions, you will not get a grave. In our culture, we have full freedom to question. All our scriptures are a result of questions only. You can question the Guru like anything. You can question God also. You can say, God, I don't believe you. Arjun says so many times in the Gita. That's the freedom we have. What more do we want? You have freedom, you have love, you have different parts to choose from, you have scientific nature, you have environmental sensitivity. Everything that we value today is there in this beautiful culture. So explore. It's most amazing culture. And definitely there are things which we need to change, and that's the last part, which is the adaptability. How much our culture has adapted itself from the earlier times to today, and it is continuously adopting or not. So it's not that if there is anything which is gone wrong, we are fanatic about it and we will not change at all. We will change. Lot of things we will change. We will adopt. That adaptability is what has made us survive so many millenniums. So most glorious culture. Be proud of being a Hindu and don't ever feel sad to proclaim I am a Hindu. Other people should actually feel, अरे काश मैं भी हिंदू होता. I am telling you that. What they are missing out, they don't know. And sometimes they know, but they don't have a choice. To be born as a Hindu, to be born in Bharat, these are two greatest blessings of life. You may know it or you may not know it, or you may not accept it today, but it is a fact. You will know it in time. You won't get a birth in Bharat and you won't be born as a Hindu unless there is some punya of the past. So explore more is what I would suggest. And the best way to explore is read Gurudev's books. And he has given so many explanations for so many of these things that we do, lot of questions we have. Did you all see that movie On a Quest? Have you seen?
Yeah,
You saw?
Yes, I've seen long time.
Long time back.
Yes,
Now as young people they should see again now. They'll understand it differently.
yes, we have that.
So it's very nice. An agnostic turned into a saint. Then what to talk about? His transformation, if he went through like that and committed himself. And he was a journalist plus a lawyer plus a student of English literature. With that mindset he went to expose the sadhus. That was his mindset, to expose the bluff of the sadhus. And he himself became a sadhu. What's the beauty of that culture?
Ruchi question છે આમાં.
That is, I think, more. I would ask her to email it to Swami.
Ruchi, your questions are answered all?
There was one about family, Ananya. You did say
Yeah.
Yeah, last
Very
one.
good.
Take
Okay,
that.
you want to do that?
Yeah,
she
take,
wants
take,
to.
take.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Just read the question part only.
Yeah. Can you speak about the importance of family life? Both Rohan and Aryan don't seem to understand it. If you could stress on the importance of why, when you live in a family, you have to compromise and help each other. Why is family time important, and what does one gain by being involved in each other's lives? I think all the four teens will benefit from this.
Okay. So why family is important? You know, Gurudev used to say that in the West, the individual is the basic unit of life, but in the East, it is the family which is the basic unit of life. Why is family very important? And if you think family is not important, either ways you can answer. Why do you think is family important? Anyone?
Why do you think family is important? What do you do? Do you think family is important? Then why?
You have to live with someone.
Because you have to live with someone. That someone could be anyone then.
Anybody.
Even in orphanage also there are lots of other people who are there, and there is one caretaker and one matron and all that. Why is family important?
Ask Aryan.
Ask Aryan. See
બંધ
the,
કરી દે બેટા.
yeah, go ahead.
it's important because when you need money,
It's important because when you need money, your family is there. No, it is true. In some ways, it is true. Financial security comes through the family. So there are a lot of different reasons why family is important. One reason definitely is one gets the physical security. The parent is there. One gets a physical and an emotional security when the parent is there, the family is there, the home is there. That is very important for the child's growth also.
अंकित सायलेंट पर मुकी दे नहीं था
जय भारत मध्ये फोनचे निशा ते मंगळावेच
नहीं तू बंद कर दे ना सॉरी
So one aspect is, yes, the physical security comes, the emotional security comes, but do you think that it is important to have a sense of belonging? Think about that. My parents, my mother, my father, my uncle, aunt, siblings, that sense of belonging is a very, very important aspect of the family. Because where that sense of belonging comes, there one expands. There one does not remain selfish. And that is a very important part of the growth of an individual. If I feel these are my people, I not only feel strongly secure, but I also am able to extend myself. Like she said in the question, I can adjust. I learn to adjust. I learn to give and take properly. I learn to put others before me. Otherwise, I grow up only as a selfish individual, all for I, me and mine. And today the biggest cause of stress and anxieties and depression and all kinds of challenges we have is selfishness. Family is the unit where selflessness can grow. Because only when there is love, there is selflessness. So even as I said earlier, the orphanages, there are orphans who are there, they will also build a bond, they will build a small family. They will start identifying, they will feel, because that need for belonging, the need for somebody to be there of mine is very powerful. Otherwise loneliness will be there. Selfishness will be there, insecurity will be there. In India, so much is not invested in social security, but America lots is invested in social security. Why? Because in India, the family is the backup. Emotionally also, financially also. And earlier the joint family system was there. See, every system has its pros and cons, but when you live in a joint family, so many things get shared also. One learns to adjust, one learns to share, one learns to become flexible. At the same time, many things become very easy. Today, people have one child, two children, and the family become nuclear family. From joint family, we have come to nuclear family. From nuclear family, now we are coming to atomic family. They are living together, 4 people, but each one is living only for themselves only. So what family is there? So we are breaking down in identification. When we grew up, lot of things were very, very natural and easy for us. There were difficulties also. There was only one channel. In our days, there used to be Doordarshan 1 TV. And that also did not have remote. Then slowly remote came. Then the fight would be for the remote. Who will have the remote? Huge family. But we learned adjustment. We learned to work with each other. So many things you just learn. Financial management, personal management, all that you just learn just like that with the family. We didn't have to have separate people to bring up the baby. What is that called? Babysitter. No babysitter required. Children just grew. So family has a lot of, one is physical aspect, emotional aspect. Family also has cultural values. What we call in our culture as the Kula Dharma. Each family has certain specific values, tradition. There is a Kul Devta, Kul Devi, Kula Dharma. So they will follow certain paths, certain traditions. Like Gujaratis, we will do what? Shitla Satam, we will all follow. Other people don't follow that. Like Malayalis, they will have a certain type of rituals. We will not have that. So every family will have certain value systems to follow, certain specific traditions to follow. Those give us a higher way of living. And family also, earlier people used to get initiated and they would all come together as a family and pray also. So spiritual development also used to happen together. Like Gurudev's family, they all evening used to sit and pray. 2 hours they had to pray. That is sometimes extreme. 2 hours is a long time and small children get affected by that. But my point is, the importance of family is in a holistic way. And when we get separated from the family and we go, then that is where we realize the importance of even small things like home food. We take home food for granted when we are here. And we all want to go out and eat, and Sundays to Gujaratis, it's a crime to make food at home. You expect Gujaratis to make food at home on Sunday means it is like what? 6 days we made for you, now 7th day you better take us out. So all we have to go out only. But when you go abroad and study etc., then one realizes, home food, home environment, the emotional support at home. If nothing, one just comes home and relaxes also, one feels so happy. Laundry, yeah. So, lot of importance family has, and ultimately for whom are we doing everything? Now you just imagine, if you grow up, you have a spouse, you have children, they don't think family is important. What will you think in your mind? For whom did I do all this? Is the thought, no? If my parents, if my children and others, they don't think that family is important, for whom am I struggling so much? I didn't want to do all this for myself only. Same thing the parents must be feeling. So if I am cut out from my parents because I think family is not important and my family is cut out from me, then who am I? There are people who are successful but they have nobody to celebrate their success with. How lonely one feels. So family brings that sense of belonging, being there for each other, because we are truly there for each other as a family. Everybody else will come and go, but family will be there throughout. We may fight, no problem in that, but we are still one family. So that feeling of family is a very, very important aspect. If that family feeling is gone, and remember one thing, it is not that family is limited only to home. Now we say we are a Chinmaya family. It's very strange. A home family you cut, but you will say now I am this particular corporate group, we are this particular family, now we are this spiritual organization family, we are Rotary Club family, we are Falana family. But your Ghar ka family, no, I don't believe in family. How hypocritical is that? That itself shows na human being has a need for a belonging. I need a circle to belong to. And there also I will find these are my close inner circle, that is my outer circle. Why all that we have to do inner circle, outer circle and all that? Because we have the need. So we should not think family is a burden or family is a pain or family is difficult. That is the testing ground for all of us. That is what will nurture us, mold us, nourish us, support us, take care of us, and it is up to us how much we give back also to that family. Give back time also happens, huh? If we keep receiving only, then we will feel lonely. If we start giving, the biggest advantage of a family is when you give love, you feel so much more happy. That giving love happens more naturally with the family, no? Because you have identification. You can love somebody out there, but only to a limit. But with your family, you can give. And one more important point is, only because of the family we really grow spiritually. We don't grow spiritually with a stranger. With family, they know us inside and out. They know all our tricks, they know all our positives, negatives, everything, and we still work with them. That is the beauty of the family. It's very easy to love everyone else. Why did Jesus even say that? Love thy neighbor as thyself. It's very difficult to love the neighbor. More easy to love the neighbor than to love the family member. Think about that. So it's very important. Family as a unit of life. Independence and family can go together. There is no doubt. People think that family means dependency, and so family means after a point in time, 18 years, the child is sent out, go now, you become independent, I should have my space, you should have your space. You can be independent and yet loving in the family. People in the family, if they have that vision, then it will work very well. So cherish the value of the family. I'll end with this research which was done. Do you know what is the priority of the Americans before 9/11? Work, socializing, family, church. This is the priority order. What is the priority order? Work, socializing, family, church. It's documented research you can find on Google. After 9/11, family came first. Then came work, then came church, then came socializing. Why? Because suddenly they realized life is so ephemeral. We didn't tell people only that we really love them. We spent so much time running behind money, trying to give comfort to the family and saying that I am doing all this for my family, but that family member only has gone now. How will I say I love you to that person? The person went. The whole priority order changed. The moment we realize the ephemeral nature of life, we will realize that my family is important to me. So that's very, very
Even in COVID.
powerful. Even in COVID, you see. COVID, other extreme also happened. People, because they were together for a long time, they started fighting more. Yeah, because till they were going out and all that, then the friction was lesser. Now full time work from home only and no going out anywhere. The fighting also was more. But in a way it brought people closer also together. Because how much can you escape? At some point you have to face the reality. Alright. What was one thing which was very dear to Amit Bhai as far as chanting is concerned?
Hanuman Chalisa.
So let's do that Hanuman Chalisa once. Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raja Nijaman Mukuru Sudhari Bharana Raghuvara Bimala Jaso Jodaya Kupalachari Buddhihina Tanu Janike Sumirau Pavana Kumar Balabudhi Vidya Dehu Mohi हरहु कलेश विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपी सति हो लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन बरन बिराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजय कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजय शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई तुमरो जस गावे अस कई श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाँ ते कवि को बिद कही सके कहाँ ते तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीना राम मिलाय राजपद दीना तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना जुग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु लील्योता ही मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाही दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना तेज समारो आपै तीनों लोक हाँकते कांपै भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे से रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों जुग पर ताप तुम्हारा है पर सिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई चित्तन धरई हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई संकट कटै मिटै सब पीरा जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई छूटहि बंदी महा सुख होई जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा की जय नाथ हृदय महाडेरा की जय नाथ हृदय महाडेरा पवन तनय संकट हरण मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसौ सुरभूप सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय उमापति महादेव की जय श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय ओम सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्।
Swamiji, we are so much thankful to you.
हरि ओम्।
Knowing there